Welcome to the Sporting Clays Nation podcast, brought to you by the National Sporting Clays Association. We are excited to bring you the latest news and conversations with industry leaders and professionals so you can be ready for the next time you pull the trigger. Now get settled in and get comfortable as we load up for an action-packed episode. Here is your host, Clifford Seibert.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to wish you all a very warm welcome to the very first episode of the National Sporting Clays Association's Sporting Clays Nation podcast. My name is Clifford Seibert, and I will be your volunteer host for the next year as we get this show off the ground. To give you all a little background about myself, I've been shooting for over 10 years now and have been working in the industry at some capacity since I was 8 years old. Whether that be refereeing, working weekends at the gun club, volunteering for different shotgun-related nonprofits, and now working full-time at the beautiful Northbrook Sports Club. So, to be frank, Sporting Clays has always been the passion of my life, and I'm looking forward to continuing that passion by getting this show started in the right direction. The show's goal is to help deliver transparent news about the sport and organization straight from the NSCA, while also having fun sharing thoughtful conversation with the shotgun industry's very best. First, we'll be speaking with NSSA and NSCA Director Michael Hampton Jr., where we will talk about news and changes coming to the NSCA. And since I wanted to make our first episode go off with a bang, I tried to pick the most exciting aspect of our sport to talk about, shoot-offs. So we'll be talking to two of the best shooters in the world and their experience with the biggest shoot-offs of their careers and how their game crescendoed at the perfect time. The first shooter we'll be speaking to is Gregg Wolf. He was the first American to ever win the World FITASC, and he did it overseas, in France, as a junior, and in a shoot-off against one of the greatest shooters ever. And then after that, we'll conclude our episode with the Cory Kruse, and he'll be speaking about his experience at the 2019 World Sporting Clays Championship, where he managed to protect his lead in a super final shoot-off against a group of veteran and rising star shooters, forever cementing himself in history as a World Sporting Clays champion. Let's get started. Here's our interview with Michael Hampton Jr. Hi, Michael. Thank you so much for joining the show. I'm thrilled to have you on for our first NSCA Fireside Chat. How are you doing today?
Very good. We're excited about this new launch of this new podcast.
I'm very excited as well, and I'm super excited to talk to you about all the great projects you and the NSCA have to share with our viewers. I know most people tuned in with us know all you do for the NSCA, but for our newer listeners and potentially new members who will be introduced to you today, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself, your role within the NSCA, and how long you've been at it for?
Yeah, I've been here for 32 years now. Feels like forever. But I've gone from running the facility to the outside to the NSCA director, now to the executive director for the last 15 years. And my role is I kind of oversee both divisions, the skeet and the sporting clay division, and the shooting complex. We've got about 30 employees down here in San Antonio that help run the association. Some deal with membership, some dealing with the clubs, from our IT department to our graphic designs, and then obviously the outside crew that runs the facility out here where we host the national championship annually.
Well, thank you for sharing all that. You guys are doing an awesome job, and I've been a NSCA member for over a decade now, and I've seen countless improvements to tournaments, the NSCA complex, and the organization as a whole, thanks from hard work from you, your whole staff, and the many great volunteers in NSCA clubs. Without you all, our sport would not be nearly as big or as fun as it is today.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. I got a great team down here.
Now I'm excited to talk about some upcoming projects and news from you. I know the first topic you wanted to touch base on was the rulebook information being sent out to the delegates. Do you care to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Sammy McFadden, who is on our EC, he's one of the officers. He has a committee of our rules committee, and they have basically went cover to cover with our rule book to kind of look at what kind of updates need to be done, what kind of verbiage needs to be changed, looking at some housekeeping, but then also some new rules that need to be added and some other rules that need to be tweaked a little bit. Um, the EC just had a meeting the other night to review those and going through the housekeeping. And the plan is by the time the national championship happens, we'll have sent out to all of our national delegates the opportunity to vote on all of these rule changes to kind of go over it. So in the weeks to come, be looking, if you're a national delegate, be looking for information that's going to be coming out there about some of these good rule changes that will implement for January 1 of 2026.
That is awesome. And for those new rule changes, will our members also get like a quick update on any of the big important ones through the email, or should they be checking the NSCA website regularly? What's the best way for them to stay updated?
Yeah, we will do an announcement at the national championship because that's when we want to have it all done. Since we have our EC and national delegate meeting, we'll have them all there. So we'll kind of give them the results then. But then we will be putting out information for those next 2 months, November, December, through social media, through the magazine, through Target Talk, all of our forms of media to make sure everybody knows what's going on. Getting this information out to the gun clubs, especially a direct email to all of them so they know what to be looking for and what potential changes there were. Like I said, a lot of things are a lot of housekeeping, little tweaks on words on how it better defines it. But then there are going to be 3 or 4 pretty good rule changes. Some of the big stuff is on the super sporting side. So we can kind of where's super sporting going? Because right now it only's got a few rules in there. We kind of defined a few more things in there to kind of help that sport grow as it continues to grow at all of our clubs.
Awesome. Those changes to super sporting will be great. Really get a better standardized format. That'll be cool. Next, you also had some news about the IT database. What's going on there?
Yeah, as you all know, we're not going to hide it. We've had some glitches this year. It's had a tough start to the year with some changes in our database that took a lot longer than we wanted them to get fixed, and it kind of drug out a little long. And we're working on. We've hired a company to come in to do an assessment of our database of all of our IT because, as you know, we're a record keeping organization, and we've got to get better at that. So we are taking that as an initiative to bring in a company, give us assessment of what we have, an independent assessment, and tell us what things we need to do to improve it, whether it's hardware, whether it's software, whether it's manpower. We're trying to add all these things to really fix where we know we've got a glaring issue. So, like I said, we're not trying to hide it. We're trying to deal with it. And we hope that some of this information that we're being provided and some of the changes that these companies are going to recommend that we can get these done. I can tell you that both the ECs on the sporting clay and the EC on the skeet side are all on board on making this a very, very high priority to put the money in that's needed to make this right and get this fixed. So hopefully we can be better than we were this year in the future.
Well, that'll be a great improvement. A lot of work into it.
Definitely.
Next, I saw a peek at the new logo and it looks fantastic. Would you mind telling us a little bit more why the NSCA thought it was time for an update?
Yeah, we've had the original logo on the sporting clay side since the inception. So we're over 35 years old with that logo. And times have changed. The sport is changing and evolving on both the skeet and the sporting clay side. So we took it as an opportunity. We formed a committee of both people from the sporting clay side, people on the skeet side, along with staff members, and we hired a company that works with recreational sporting companies and organizations from archery to lacrosse to hockey, all kinds of different sports and that kind of stuff. And they teamed up with us, with our committee, and we've spent months working on it, tweaking it, and we finally got a final product that we just launched out there. We did a soft launch of what it is. Right now, we are going to maintain the current Skeet and Sporting Clay logo through the remainder of this year. But January 1st, everything that you'll see coming out of headquarters will be this new logo for both the sporting and the Skeet side. But like I said, that will be a January 1. But we're really excited. We feel like these two new logos really kind of showcase more about what we're about and how it is, and as it evolved. And like I said, we're proud of it. We're proud of what the committee did working with this company, and looking forward to getting the feedback and hearing what everybody thinks.
That is really a great improvement. I'm really glad the organization's kind of keeping up with the times, just like the sport's growing. The logo and the branding needs to grow too, and it looks really sharp.
Well, thank you. You know, the branding is something that we've never done. Every big company, every big organization has branding standards and what they do and how they do with their logo. To be honest with you, we didn't have any of that. People just took our logo at either side, and they did whatever they want with it and did whatever colors they want with it. And we used it different ways. And this gave us an opportunity to really, how should we do it as an organization? How should we portray ourselves? Because obviously we want to grow outside of our industry. And the best way to grow outside the industry is look professional. And with having these brand standards and how we use the logo and the colors of it, everything tied in to give us a more professional look. And hopefully we can get some of these outside companies, these drink companies, these car companies, these oil companies, the gas station, all of them to try to be supporting of our organization and be a part of it. So there's lots of reasons why we did what we did.
Super important to clubs and shooters and instructors. You want to talk about club insurance. Would you care to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yes. One of our partners, as you know, we have two partners on our insurance companies. We have Locked In Infinity and SIAI, which we've had forever. But Locked In Infinity is going to be putting out a new product to kind of help us with promoting our insurance and that. They're going to be a part of this podcast down the road, giving you guys some more information about. We always get calls in from our members on, how does the gun floater insurance work? How do I get it? What do I get? What do I need to do? How does it offered? Our instructors, we got instructors all over the country that some of them get paid, some of them are volunteer. They're part of our instructor program and that kind of stuff. And what kind of instructor insurance do I need? And then we get into our clubs. We have some clubs that are private clubs, some are owned by their members. So all of those clubs need to have some type of insurance, and they need different insurance if they're private or public and that kind of stuff. And also our state associations and these clubs getting directors and officers insurance. So Locked In Infinity is going to work with us in how to break each one of those down and talk to everybody about that, and then be able to get more information on that to make sure that all around, all of our members, from clubs to instructors to members, are all covered in their firearm needs for what they're doing for us and the NSCA. So we're excited about this with Locked In Infinity. So more information to come on that, or you can go to their website and you can take a look. They've got a lot of great stuff out there.
That's awesome and super important, and oftentimes something clubs and instructors can forget about, and they shouldn't, because if you're handling a shotgun, you should have some insurance, especially if you're coaching or running your business. Thank you there. One more great improvement I want to talk about as a huge clay shooting history buff is the news about the museum at the complex. What do y'all have in store for us there?
Yeah, we're excited. We were going to be adding on a new addition to our current Hal DuPont Hall of Fame and Museum. It's going to be about 1,800, 1,900 square feet. It's going to be called our Hall of Fame section. That's where we're going to show all of our Hall of Fame members, all of our DuPont Service Award winner, all our Hill Adams winners that are all going to be in there, all the shooters and that kind of stuff for both sides, skeet and sporting. And that's going to open up our current museum that we have more space in there to add more of the history, more of the displays. Sporting clays, as we know, skeet has been around a lot longer than sporting clays. So skeet had a lot more in our museum for their history. but sporting has definitely deserves more space now. And everybody on the sporting and skeet side agreed this expansion will give us that opportunity to really expand our sporting clay portion of that history, show more displays, give the people that are the history of our game, from the John Krugers to the Scott Robinsons to the Hal DuPonts to the Gary Greenways, all of those people that have been the basically the history, the beginning of our sport. An opportunity to have some displays in there to show their wares, their guns, from Andy Duffy's guns that he won the national championship with, to all the other national champions that's got neat history that we can add in there. So we're excited about this expansion. It's going to start right after the national championship in November. It'll be done by the end of May. So by next year's national championship, World Skeet Shoot, everybody will be able to come in there and see this new layout. Steve Ellinger and Phil Murray and Matt Smith of Clay Target Legends have been a instrumental part in helping make this happen. So we're happy to have these volunteers that are helping us out, helping it design it, lay it out. So this is going to be a big thing. We hope the members appreciate it. If anybody's looking at supporting it, please go to our website. They can make a donation, reach out to headquarters, ask for me. Be happy to talk to you about it. But this is something we're really excited about, to really grow that that history part, because it is, if it needs to be there so people don't forget about how it started, who was before them, and that kind of stuff. All major sports have them, and we need to make sure that we keep ours up to date and in there too.
Michael, do you have any final messages you care to share?
No, like I said, I'm looking forward to this new podcast. I'm looking forward to all the people we've got planned. Our EC is going to be instrumental in having different EC members talk about what committees that they're working on, what they're doing, whether it's the awards committee or the competition or the rules people, what they're doing, because I will promise you that your EC is out there actively working to try to grow the organization. We need our national delegates to help us continue that at the state level, and then our clubs to continue supporting the association. So this is all going to be great. We're looking forward to it on the communication side. Just another way of getting the word out what's going on.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Michael. We will
Thanks,
see
Cliff.
you next time.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
It was great hearing about all the news and upcoming projects from the NSCA. And I think it's time to get into our next segment. But before I do so, I'd like to set the scene for everyone. It's 2004, and it is the year of unpredictability. There's this guy named Howard Dean, and he is screaming, and no one knows why. Martha Stewart just went to jail before anyone at Enron, and Janet Jackson shocked the world for 9/16 of a second at the Super Bowl. However, if you were involved in clay shooting at the time, nothing, and I mean nothing, was more shocking than our next guest's performance at the World Feat Task. Of course, we will be talking to living legend Gregg Wolf about his travels as a 20-year-old kid overseas to France on his way to defeat the best shooters in the world, and I mean the best. At the time, George Digweed and Richard Faulds were dominating world competition, but little did they know, a kid from Minnesota was going to be the one to steal this show. Here's our interview with Gregg. Hey, Gregg, how's it going? Glad to have you on the show tonight.
Doing great. Thanks for inviting me, Cliff.
I just thought you would be the perfect guest because, as you know, we're going to be talking about shoot-offs tonight, and you probably have the coolest story in clay shooting about your trip to France in 2004 for the World Feat Task, and you lit it up, and you became the first American ever to win the World Feat Task, and you did it as a junior. Would you mind telling the audience a little bit about that trip, the format of the shoot, how you were feeling, and just how it was going?
Yeah, I mean, it was an awesome time all the way around. It was a it was our first time I ever shot in France. So just the whole, getting there and doing the whole intercontinental travel and dealing with the time changes and all that other stuff that goes with it. I mean, just the whole culture shock between, what we live around here and going there. There's nothing the same. And the birds aren't, they're clay. That's about the same thing. That's about the only thing that's the same here and there too, because they definitely different have a different style of throwing birds. And it was eye opening. It was a great time. It was a really cool part of the France too. It was down on the southern part, so we were out on the Mediterranean, and I don't know if the people liked us a lot because we're Americans, but we made it work either way. So
Usually not the case there. Did you find the targets to be a little bit like faster and further than what you saw in the States in that particular time, or was it pretty comparable?
yeah, I'd shot in England prior a few times, and England's always kind of known as the real big, big far crossers and blackbirds and big middies and driven birds, and this shoot was it was really had a lot of terrain and a lot of rock outcroppings and that type of stuff, and they threw a ton of speed on birds and a lot of low stuff, and they were not afraid to crank a spring to the max and just let that baby rip. So it if you weren't on your game, you got in trouble, a lot of trouble in a big hurry there.
Well, it's good you guys could shoot ounce and a quarter back then, because you probably needed all of it sometimes. You missed that? You missed getting beat up by those things? Or okay?
back then you didn't think anything of it. You run cases of those through there like it was nothing, and now I shot a couple the other day and I was like, oh man, what was I thinking?
Right. Beat up all the time. Oh, that's funny. So your shoot went great. I mean, you had 4 awesome days in a row, and you find yourself 20 years old. You're in a shoot off for HOA with Ben Huswaite. What were you feeling? Were you a little nervous at all? Or you were so successful in the past as a junior. You've won 3 junior titles at that point, 2 World English and 1 FITASC. Were you just super confident, a little nervous?
I was really confident. I had my first 2 days of that shoot, I was shot pretty good, and I shot unbelievable my third day, and then just kind of made it through on the fourth. But I just was in the mode of just letting it rip the whole time, not holding back at all. And going into that shoot off, I felt great, and I was just kind of rolling in there with the same plan that I was not going to hold back. I was just going to go full throttle the whole way.
Yeah, that must have been a sight to see, because I've had the pleasure of shooting with you once, and you're fast, and it's fun to watch. It's right off the arm. So I'd be a little nervous to see 20-year-old Gregg out there much faster.
Yeah.
Seeing the target.
Yeah, 100% no fear back then. It was just slam the shells in the gun and pull the trigger as soon as you saw something. That's actually a few things from the shoot off I remember. One of the main parts was the very first bird. There was a big dead tree, I mean monster tree, 5-6 feet in diameter or whatever it was, but it was out about 80 yards or something like that, and they threw a big teal crow bird coming up from behind this tree, and it came up in the area, and I don't know if you shot it at the peak. It kind of was floating in maybe a little bit, but I mean, it was kind of a full spring on the way up, cut past this dead tree, and I just let it rip when I shot that thing halfway up in the sky, and I was just full speed ahead. I was letting it fly, that I think really helped me in that shoot off too, because once that bird broke, my confidence level went from being high to I'm invincible.
Right. And I'm sure the guy you're shooting off with too, he's like, oh my gosh, what's he doing? He's halfway up.
Yeah, there was definitely a little intimidation factor in that one there, because he didn't realize what he'd gotten into.
Right. Oh, that's hilarious. During the shoot off, did you find the crowd play a factor at all? All those people watching you?
It was cool to having 100 people behind you. Everybody who was on Team USA at the time and had traveled over was there, and then you got the whole European contingency there too. So the English guys, some of them were rooting for Ben back then. Some probably less now, but I don't really know. But but it was fun shooting in front of that many people and being able to run through a whole parkour.
Yeah, I bet. And That whole parkour, I mean, that has to be a grueling process. It's four pegs long. How did you go about kind of staying in it that long? Did you have to tell yourself anything to keep going, or?
Yeah, you had enough adrenaline going that you're just amped up to be in part of it. But it was getting pretty late in the day. I mean, by the time the whole shoot wrapped up and then they decided all the stuff was going, I do remember it was getting really late, and by the time we really finished it up, it was at the end. You didn't want to be shooting much longer after that.
Right. Again, hard to see.
Yeah.
Was there anything like out of the ordinary about this shoot off, or anything interesting that happened that
Oh,
you want to talk about?
yeah. It was. There was a little issue during the shoot off with some refereeing that kind of caused a little controversy. And if I remember right, I think it was peg 3. I had a pair, and it was a true pair. And I broke the first bird, and the second bird came out broken. And the ref, it was a French, they had 3 French refs, which was, you had 3 refs doing this thing. And they called it dead, and then shoot the pair over. And I remember turning to him and talking like, hey, it's not dead. There's nothing established. And then he was like, no, dead bird. I'm like, and I remember like a couple times asking him, saying, no, it's not. And we call it dead. Anyway, so the pair comes out, and I end up missing the first bird, and I hit the second bird. And so they scored it. We go on, shoot the 4th peg. The 4th peg gets done, and I had caught on the score sheet, 1-by-1, even though because of that pair that they called, it's not. So Ben files a protest at the shoot off while standing around peg 4, and this whole thing erupts into an hour and a half, at least an hour controversy of, I was told everything from that I had won the World Free Task, and then I was told that I was going to be disqualified from the World Free Task. And then, the president Plinkus was down there, and the whole, European, all the presidents of the Americas and everybody, Joe Canty and all these guys back then, and they were having a meeting on what to do and try to figure this thing out. And I remember I was hot, but somebody told me just to sit down, and just sit over here and relax, and we'll figure this out. And in the end, after all this deliberation, they came up to me and asked me, uh, would you go shoot the pair again? Because by now, like I said, it had gotten so late that it was the sun was almost down. And they're like, will you go shoot this one pair again to determine the outcome of the shoot? So now you're talking like the coolest thing ever. You're up shooting. And I know when I was a kid, I was trained, and Cory has told me this too before, that, you go out there and you got 2 shells left in your pocket, and you're like, all right, 2 shells. Hit the pair, win the world. Miss the pair, lose the world. Hit one and tie. Well, I literally had that scenario when it was playing out, and it was so cool. Because, I mean, we went back to the parkour, went back to peg 3 of that parkour, and went up and all the way up to the thing there, and I got to view the pair once, and they're like, all right. And I'm like, cool. I dropped 2 shells in and just hammered them both. And it was just, that was the coolest moment of, other than having kids and getting married and that cool stuff. But of my life, it was super amazing just to be able to let that play out.
It's kind of like you said, it's what you imagine as a kid in any sport. Like you hear about in basketball all the time too, with like the big shot, like, oh, this will win the NBA championship. But you had that in real life. That's a pretty cool moment.
Yeah, it was very cool. Something I'll never forget. I know that. So,
well, I'm glad that the ball didn't lie that time, and you actually you broke the pair, because that would have been a horrible story if it didn't go any other way.
Yeah, in a way, it'd have been real bad if it went any other way. So, but yeah, no, I had 100% confidence, and it was just there to do my thing.
What was it like going back to the States and just going to like a state shoot, now being Gregg Wolf, world champion? Was there a little bit of pressure there when you got back, or?
Oh yeah. I remember the world was a little later in the year, and I think the next major shoot was like with nationals or something. And I came in there, and I know I shot horrible because I won the world now. I'm like, I got to perform to that level every time, and then you're getting to the ending before doing the work to get there. I wasn't doing the process that got me there and working one bird at a time. I already thought, well, I'm supposed to be there. And yeah, it's been a large learning curve since then, but yeah, it was definitely different coming home.
I bet I'd probably do horrible after for probably ever. I've done it all. What else is there left?
Yep. Already check the box at the bottom of the list. Now I got to go back to the top one.
Right. Do the same thing again and again. That's why George is great, I guess.
He is amazing.
Is there any projects or anything coming up for you? I know you and your dad are busy at work. How's he doing?
He's doing real good. He's spending more time on the water fishing now than he is shooting, but he still likes to get out in the range and do some banging away here and there. So, but no, for us, we're just working away. Lots of stuff at work. I'm actually working on a commercial shop for us, building one, and we're just plugging away, selling trucks, fixing them.
Awesome. Where in Minnesota are you guys at again?
On the southwest side of the Twin Cities. Jordan is the name of the town. So,
Gotcha.
actually, yeah, real close to like the Minnesota Horse and Hunt Club. It's just down the road, and Caribou Gun Club. So,
those were my two favorite. We can't get up there enough, but those were my favorite places to go growing up shooting. Just cool terrain, and they did an excellent job all the time. We missed those places for sure.
Yeah. Wish they'd had some more shoots going there, but maybe we'll see.
Yeah. What are your plans for the rest of the year? Are you going to go to Nationals?
Yep. Nationals will be my next one, and try to get some hunting in here as long as we get hunt season's coming up real shortly. So, no, I'm excited for Nationals. So, I've been going there for a really long time, and it's always a good shoot. So,
yes, it is. And then after that, it'll be hibernation time to bunker down in the winter for the winter months. That's something that I think the Texans have an advantage over us a little bit, as they get to shoot in the winter, and we're all bundled up till March, really.
Oh, hands down. There is no doubt about that. I'll fully admit I have never shot good at any of the February tournaments or any of that stuff, just because I haven't pulled the trigger since Nationals prior, because it's too cold to be out there. So, and you know very well what I'm talking about too.
Yeah, I completely understand. Me and my friends always joked about at school that it'd be really cool to have a tournament in the winter in like Chicago and have like a world championship. And I said, I don't think you guys will understand. Gregg will beat all of you by 20 birds. Everyone had to shoot in a jacket.
Oh, yeah. I'd love that. Yeah. Let's bring everybody up, and everybody can go out there and shoot in parkas. I'll take you all on then.
Kill everybody. Well, it was so nice having you on the show, Gregg. I really appreciate it. I will see you at Nationals, and I hope that everything else is going great for you, and looking forward to having you on the show again sometime.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Cliff, for having me on here. Have a good one.
Thank you, Gregg. Our final guest is one of the most accomplished shooters in United States history. He's an NSCA Hall of Famer and an overall great guy. We, of course, will be talking to Cory Kruse. Cory, like Gregg, has been winning major events ever since childhood, which gives him terrific insight on the mental game, dealing with pressure, and everything else related to clay shooting. So let's jump right into our conversation.
Hey, bud, how you doing? Appreciate you having me on.
Oh, I'm glad you're here. I'm super excited and really looking forward to this interview to hear firsthand about how you became a World English Sporting Clays champion. For those in the audience that have never shot or know much about the World English Sporting Clays Championship, would you speak a little bit about the format of this event and why it is so much harder to win than any other sporting clays shoot?
Well, the World English, also known as the World Championship, we kind of confuse the public, in my opinion, of what is the World English. It's a very common thing that I've heard, but it is the World Sporting Clays Championship. It alternates from the U.S. to the U.K. back and forth every year, and whenever it is stateside, every other year it's in San Antonio, and then the winning bid for locations to have it stateside every other year. So it will actually move around the United States a little bit. It's been held in Florida and in Chicago at your pop's place at Northbrook, which is a fantastic event. And last year, last year it was 2024. It was at Anthony Matteris's place, and I believe it's really set the tone and raised the bar as it moves around. The special thing about the World Sporting Clays Championship is that it's one of the few tournaments that actually has a super final. So you have a 200 target race shot over 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. And then you have a 25 target super final that they take the top 6 scores, and then those 6 people actually advance to a super final, which is shot in front of a big crowd or stadium. A lot of pressure, a lot of intensity, and I believe for me, watching it as a kid, it was just really special to be able to see guys and legends like George Digweed and Mick Howes and all these, just really cool people win that world title on a public stage rather than out on the course. And, it brings a spectator sport type of feel to the game that you don't often really get to see.
Yeah, that tournament is truly a beast in of itself. I remember I refereed your shoot off, and you could notice that palpable pressure in the air from all of the competitors. However, I remember you seemed pretty calm, collected, and smooth. You didn't seem to have any shakes. You didn't make any bad decisions, and the blazer was moving super well, and the Aguila ammo and Rhino choke combo were smacking the targets. Was that actually the case? Did you feel calm in that 25 bird super final?
You know, yes and no. There's, if I might sound a little schizophrenic or something for a minute, but there was part of me that was total chaos, and there was another part of me that was just calm, cool, collected, and I was just doing what I had trained to do. So yes and no, if that makes any sense. And it was just stuff that you train for. You expect to get to that spot, and then now that you are there, you just try to make the best of it.
Do you have a specific routine that you do that kind of keeps the pressure and the nerves off?
Again, it's another yes and no. I do have a routine, but it changes a lot. I think that most pros would agree that after a while you use a routine enough, it just kind of gets watered down in your own mind. So you have to kind of keep it fresh and try new things, to keep it so it continues to have its merit and does what it's supposed to do. The routine, it's more of a conscious movement and thought process to produce something, right? So like if I was to break mine down, like in practice, you train for those moments, like I was saying, and I think too, your history in how many times you've got to that position, and you learn from your failures, right? So I have failed a lot. For every success, I've probably got 10 failures. But I think what helped me in that one was just kind of not focusing on the discipline of a routine. And even though I had a routine, my main focus was just hitting the shots, right? So I think my path to hitting those shots was more of a reflection of all the prior training, which I had hit all those same shots with ease many times before. So this allowed me to mentally kind of go back to those moments that kind of gave me comfort as opposed to the anxiety or pressure. As for every little stressful situation, anytime anxiety, I kind of was able to unplug that and plug it into something I had trained for. So I guess the moral of the story is that if your consciousness is on the pressure, you're kind of already screwed, in those situations. I kind of think it's funny. I kind of sound like Cal Naughton Jr. in Talladega Nights, but like 1,000 conscious repetitions of something that you're training to do will in turn reflect a subconscious reaction. So I guess another way of saying it is like George Digweed. I don't know if it's like an official quote of his, but perfect practice builds confident execution. And so I guess all in all, just focusing on getting the job done, not really, how you're going to cope with the pressure. It'll be over before you know it. So just kind of embrace the butterflies and just do the job like you've trained to. And it just kind of, before you know it, it's over with, and hopefully you won.
That's very interesting. And I really agree with you on embracing the butterflies, what you said there at the end, because they're coming anyways. So you try and fight them, you try and do anything else. And now
that's what you paid to do. You want to, if you're not getting the butterflies, you don't love it enough.
Yep. Yep. And they're going to come anyways. And if you try and fight them, then you're worried about the wrong thing, right?
Right. The stressful part of a shoot off, especially a super final, I think for most people tank is they're too caught up in the present situation of where they're at rather than what their job is. Oh, there's people watching me. Oh, I got if this, if that, if I miss what's going to, all this, all that, that's kind of Wendell Cherry had told me one time, you do need to stay in the present. And it's something I have never forgot. But anytime you start thinking about what would happen if this or if that, that's not, you're out of the present, pretty much immediately. But what is the job I need to do? Hit this shot. How many times have I hit this shot before? Thousands of times. What's the big deal? Oh, people are watching me. They watch me all the time. Like focus on what you're supposed to do and do it how you've trained for. Just because it's in a shoot off doesn't mean that you need to be more serious about it now just because someone's watching you. Just a good Navy SEAL buddy of mine told me one time, like how you train yourself is like imagine a sponge. When you squeeze it, what comes out of you? And when you need to train that way, so whenever your sponge is squeezed, what comes out of you, that's what's going to happen to you in a shoot off. So train that way.
That's a really great point. Kind of speaking of distractions and stuff, would you say the biggest one is when someone can come back and maybe beat you? Do you notice that? Do you notice if somebody's breaking some birds at those first couple of stations in that super final? Was there anybody that was kind of nipping at your heels during the shoot off?
I honestly don't know. I would glance at the leaderboard a little bit in between stations, but that was in 2019, and I don't hardly remember what I had for breakfast. So I mean, but I'm confident in saying that whatever was going on, I really wasn't worried about it. I was pretty confident going into it that I was like, I've been in the super final several times before. I came up short uh, in 2008 to Richard Fauld's. We were at Lakenheath Air Force Base over in the UK, and ended up getting runner up. And I was pretty young at that time, as compared to how old I was in 2019. But that past experience plus some other field attempts in the super final, I had just kind of like, look, this crap ain't happening again. We're getting in there, hitting everything, and just win it. So I really wasn't paying attention to, who was coming up. I knew I had a little bit of forgiveness just because I think I had a target or two lead going into it, and I'm usually going into those like more or less. I've got to make up a couple birds, so having a couple target lead going into it, just that particular one, I wasn't considering anybody catching me.
Right.
I don't want that to sound arrogant, but that would just, maybe that's a healthy mentality to have, in your, I guess a reflection of what true confidence is without arrogance. You know what I mean?
I'm sure it is. I don't think you'd want to bet on any competitor that doesn't think they're going to win.
Yeah. I do remember at the end of I think it was the last pair of it, I thought that all I needed to do was just hit one of them. And if you look back at the video, there was well, I forget what the first target was, but the second one was a 70 millimeter that was kind of chandeliering off of a tower. And I was wanting to shoot my last shot a foot off the ground. I think I actually missed it. But I remember having to ask, like, as soon as that, I was like, I got it right. Like, I won it right. Because I kind of lost track of where it's at. I just knew, like, just hit this many and you'll win. And I got to that point and I was like, all right, cool, it's over with. And maybe it was like a show off shot or something that was an epic fail. So good thing, that public school math didn't bite me in the butt there.
So as of recently, there have been some discussion on the internet about the format of the super final and its fairness. Some think if you're the winner of the 200 target quote unquote qualifier round, you should be the winner of the tournament and not subject to possibly losing it all in a 25 bird super final shoot off. What are your thoughts on that?
I've got a lot of thoughts on that. One, I would say who are the people that's advocating for that? One, and then if they're not a past world champion, their vote don't count. Two, by stripping that super final away, you would be doing an injustice to all the past people who have won in a super final manner. It makes it that much sweeter. I mean, yeah, the world championship's the world championship, and that's just kind of the way it was played. Maybe they should have changed the rule 30 years ago, but in my opinion, you'd be doing a huge injustice to all of the past winners to take that part of it out. It's a very special thing, not only for the winner, but the history of, and like being able to, the spectator side of it. People get to see it crowned. Now, I have also, like, this is kind of like a side story complaint, or like just confusion. Is it the top six people or is the top six scores? Because if you've got a bunch of ties on that sixth score, okay. Now, is it if you've got a 190, a 189, a 188, 187, that's, whatever it is, and that whatever that sixth number, it might be six people more on there. So do you have 11 people in it? Because that they just need to clear up the definitions of what that actually means. Top six people, top six scores. And if it's top six people, if you've got eight people tied on the second highest score, plus three more people tied on the third highest score. You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah,
Like,
and
just to clear that up, because there was one time in San Antonio that we actually had to shoot off to get into a space where there was like 10 people in it. And I don't know, so it's like, just figure that part out and let us know, and just be consistent with how you're going to do it. That's kind of my, little rant there. Uh, because I mean, there at one time in San Antonio, I had actually been bitten by a brown recluse spider and got this huge infection in my leg. I had to go to the ER and have it actually cut open, and then I'm limping back trying to make it back in time for the super final that I was in. And when I get back, then I heard that I had to shoot off to get into it, because I was like on a tie and they were only taking top six people instead of top six scores. Like, what? So it's like, all right, I just got a knife in my leg anyway. Now I got to shoot off to get into the shoot off. Come on. Like,
Right.
just be consistent with your rules. That's would be, my whole deal. But back to your question, the controversy of should it be taken out? I I'd be pissed if they did, just because it's like, well, all right, well then now, you've just kind of ended that era of a world champion being a world champion with a super final attached to it. So now our names get asterisks by it or something because we won it with a super final. Uh, yeah, all the people that are just bitter about going into a super final in the lead and losing it. Well, you didn't complete the job. I'm sorry, but you just didn't complete the job. And that's part of the job, is to win after 225, not 200. You got to make your 200 score to get to the dance, and then you have to perform in that arena to be crowned. That's my opinion.
Right. It's like a cutoff almost.
That's right.
Do you think the difficulty of the super final should reflect the same as the courses you shot on? Should it be harder? What do you think there?
So that's like a next level question, because it's going to take a really talented target setter and target, course designer to be able to set that difficulty perfectly, because sometimes it's at night, sometimes it's windy, the elements are always around you, but you can't have stuff like we saw. I mean, I wasn't at Churchill's this year, unfortunately. I just had some stuff come up with work. I wasn't able to make it. I was really sad to miss it, but I was watching online, and I think all the guys from the last peg average score was like 1 or 2 out of 9. I mean, what are you trying to prove? Like, there's a margin right there between speed, angle, and distance that is challenging, but it is hittable. And I think that the target set in the super final, your question, it needs to be balanced to where there's opportunity for someone to get back in the game, and there's also opportunity for someone to lose some ground. So you can't just have them 20-yard, little hanging on a string shots, but you also can't have a 90-yard ripping edgy bird that's hard to see, at the same point. There is a wow factor that goes into it. That is a crowd pleasing shot, but you don't give that shot 6 times. You give that shot, as the single, can they hit the 25th bird, because you've got, 12 pairs plus a wow bird, you know what I mean? So that's my opinion of it anyway. I think, and it takes a very experienced target setter to be able to set those presentations.
Very well said, and I agree 100%. I asked this question to Gregg as well as we start to conclude. After you've won so much, what keeps you going? What makes you want to get better? How do you get better if you're the best? If you won a world championship and you beat everybody in the world, how do you say, how do I get better from here?
Well, one, every weekend's different. Just because you won something in 2019, I mean, I'd say like this: if your identity's wrapped up in the crap that you've won, you're really missing out on a lot of life. So, that's one part. Second, I think what keeps me going, I've talked to Greg and Anthony and Travis Mears a lot about that same question. And I think if it wasn't for them, I would have quit a long time ago. They're like extended family to me, and we've shot together since we were teenagers, and now we're all in our 40s. So, I mean, we've got almost 30 years experience shooting together, or competing against each other. And it's almost kind of like a brotherhood, in my opinion, and I like to see my brothers from other mothers, out on the road. Our families are halfway intertwined, because we get to watch each other's kids grow up and all that, plus all the extended family we see at tournaments, which I'm sure you're very well aware. I mean, I've got to watch you grow up, and those are things that keep me coming back. But I guess in addition, just the love of the game, the love of the industry. There's always the game's evolving, the target sets are changing, the target setters, the gear, the equipment, the people, who's hot this year versus who's hot isn't, next year. Everything's changing, and I think it's just gratifying to like be able to rub shoulders with the best of the best here and there, whether it's stateside or internationally. And just, it's not something you have to be super athletic in, but you do have to stay very, very sharp. So you're always fighting for that last 1/8 inch, that last 1%, because now there's so many people that are so good, that 1% is what separates everyone, and it might even be a 0.5%. I mean, you look, there's an interesting statistic. If you look at nationals at the all around, which is I think a 700 target or 600 target race, I mean, 1-2 shots separate first, second, and third. After that many on a national scale, with 5 days and the elements involved, 1-2 shots. No one really ever runs away with that one. So if that tells you like how comparable everyone is, it's like who won that race, who won that race, who won that race. Well, they won by this margin, and then you see what I mean. That part is very fascinating to me, and that's kind of something that's always kept me hanging around. And I have not cared. I've been very bitter with shooting before. I've kind of had these ups and downs in the industry where I was like, this is pointless. I'm just wasting so much money. We can't make a living doing this, unfortunately. And why am I spending so much time and effort doing it? Just love the game, man. I mean, that's plain and simple, and what you define as love of the game with all your people and using the gifts the good Lord gave you to, you know, it could just be changing someone's day, man. I don't even know why, I show up to some of the tournaments that I do. There ain't no money in it, but I feel like going, and then you usually can figure it out whether while you're at the event or after you get home. Just you might have one conversation that was worthwhile going. The stickman trophy you get by winning the shoot don't really mean much to me anymore. But if you impacted some kid's life or even a grown-up's life or had a cool conversation with an old timer, I mean, that makes my day. So I guess those are the couple reasons of what keeps me going in it.
Thank you so much for joining us today on our inaugural episode. And I know you're super busy and wear a million different hats between work, coaching, shooting, volunteering, and event planning. Is there anything in that realm you'd like to share with the audience? Do you have any projects coming up? Anything you're working on?
Yeah, we've got a really big one. I'm not really ready to talk about it yet, and I hate being cryptic, but it'll be worth it whenever we're ready to release it. So kind of, I guess, involuntarily being cryptic, but yeah, we've got some big projects that hopefully we'll be able to release soon. It'll be super cool. We're proud of it.
Gotcha. So watch out on your social media for that, huh?
Yeah.
Good. Well, it's so nice talking to you, Cory. I'm excited to see you at the next event. Good luck with all your endeavors and your cryptic project. I'm sure it'll be great. Looking forward to it.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on, and appreciate what y'all are doing and getting the word out there and helping people, know about our fun game.
Of course. It'll be a fun project for sure. Thanks again.
You bet, bud. Appreciate you.
That concludes our first episode of the Sporting Clays Nation podcast, brought to you by the NSCA. Thank you all so much for listening, and we hope to see you in 2 weeks for our second episode. We will continue to try and make the show better and as engaging as possible for our members. Thanks again for watching. See you next time.
The information, opinions, and advice contained in this multimedia content, including any third-party sites listed or linked in such multimedia content, collectively the content, represent the views and opinions of the speakers and do not necessarily represent the views, standards, policies, or opinions of the National Skeet Shooting Association, the National Sporting Clays Association, or any of their respective employees, members, volunteers, agents, representatives, or affiliates, collectively the association parties. The mere appearance of the content on the site does not constitute an endorsement by any of the association parties. The content has been made available for information and educational purposes only. Unless specifically stated otherwise, none of the association parties endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information, product, process, service, or organization presented or mentioned in the content, and none of the content should be referenced in any way to imply such approval or endorsement. The association parties assume no responsibility for and hereby disclaim any and all liability to any party for any direct, indirect, implied, punitive, special, incidental, or other consequential damages arising directly or indirectly from any adoption or use of the content, which is provided as is and without any warranties. For further clarity, the association parties make no representation or warranty with respect to the accuracy, completeness, applicability, effectiveness, fitness, or completeness of the content, including with respect to their compliance with applicable law.